The morning rush had just begun, and the diner buzzed with the usual chaos of clinking dishes, hurried footsteps, and the steady hum of conversation. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with the aroma of sizzling bacon and warm pancakes. Emma, dressed in her slightly faded uniform, moved gracefully between tables, balancing plates and refilling coffee cups with a practiced ease. Though exhaustion weighed on her, she never let it show. Her warm smile and kind demeanor made her a favorite among regulars, and even those who were visiting for the first time felt welcomed by her presence. At a corner booth near the window, an elderly man sat alone, his frail hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. His coat, worn and frayed at the edges, barely shielded him from the cold that seeped through the glass. He had been a familiar face in the diner for weeks, always ordering the same modest breakfast, a small stack of pancakes and a single strip of bacon. Emma had noticed how he counted every penny before ordering, making sure he never spent more than he could afford. Today was no different. She watched from a distance as he carefully unfolded a few crumpled bills and scattered some coins onto the table. His expression tightened, and he let out a quiet sigh as he counted again, his fingers trembling slightly. Emma's heart ached. She had seen that look before, the silent realization that he had miscalculated, that today he had ordered more than he could pay for. He hesitated before reaching for his plate, as if considering whether he should leave without finishing. Emma didn't think twice. She quickly moved to the counter, nodding at the cashier. "Put his bill on mine," she whispered. The cashier hesitated. "You sure, Emma? That's your tip money." She smiled softly. "I'm sure. He needs it more than I do." With the transaction settled, she returned to the old man's table, kneeling slightly so she could meet his eyes. "Excuse me, sir," she said gently. "Breakfast is taken care of today." The man blinked, his cloudy eyes widening with surprise. "What do you mean?" She shrugged lightly. "Just a small gesture. You don't have to worry about the bill." His lip quivered, and for a moment, it seemed like he might protest. But instead, his weathered face softened, and he exhaled a shaky breath. "Young lady, you don't have to do that." Emma reached out and lightly patted his hand, which felt cold against her warm fingers. "I know, but I want to." Tears welled up in the man's eyes, but he quickly blinked them away. He nodded, swallowing hard. "Thank you. You have no idea how much this means." She smiled. "Enjoy your breakfast, okay?" As she walked away, she didn't notice the man sitting at the other end of the diner, watching the entire exchange. Dressed in a sleek suit, his wrist adorned with an expensive watch, James Lockwood sipped his coffee in silence. Unlike the other customers who barely paid attention to what was happening around them, he had observed every detail. The way Emma had noticed the old man's struggle before he even spoke a word. The way she had stepped in without hesitation, without expecting anything in return. The way she had comforted him with nothing but kindness. James had been to countless upscale restaurants, where the service was polished and rehearsed, where waiters catered to him because they knew who he was. But this was different. Emma hadn't acted out of obligation or for a tip. She had done it simply because she cared. And that, James knew, was something money couldn't buy. As Emma continued her shift, unaware of the man who had taken a sudden interest in her, James set down his coffee cup and made a quiet decision. This woman deserved something far greater than she had, and he was going to make sure she got it. The afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the quiet streets as Emma pushed through the heavy diner doors, the bell above jingling softly. The end of her shift was always the best part of her day, not because she disliked her job, but because it was the only time she could breathe without the weight of exhaustion pressing down on her shoulders. She stretched her aching arms and adjusted the strap of her worn-out bag before stepping onto the sidewalk. The cool breeze brushed against her flushed skin, offering a brief moment of relief. As she made her way down the street, the sound of a slow approaching car made her glance over her shoulder. A sleek black vehicle, the kind she only saw in magazines or passing by in the wealthier parts of town, rolled to a smooth stop beside her. She hesitated, gripping the strap of her bag a little tighter, her instincts telling her to keep walking. But then, the tinted window lowered, revealing a familiar face. It was the man from the diner, the one who had been sitting in the far booth, observing her. "Miss Emma, is it?" His voice was smooth, steady, with a tone of quiet authority. Emma stopped, furrowing her brows. "Yes." The man offered a small, polite smile. "I hope I'm not disturbing you. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is James Lockwood." Emma blinked. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but she couldn't quite place it. There was something about his presence, refined yet unassuming, that made her curious but also slightly wary. "Okay, Mr. Lockwood, can I help you with something?" James chuckled, shaking his head. "Actually, I think I might be able to help you." Emma's grip on her bag tightened. "Help me, with what?" He gestured toward the car. "Would you mind taking a short drive with me? I promise it's nothing bad. I just want to talk." Emma glanced around, her mind racing. Who was this man, and why was he interested in her? She had spent all day serving customers, pouring coffee, cleaning tables, nothing out of the ordinary. She took a cautious step back. "I don't really know you," she said honestly. James nodded, as if he had expected her hesitation. "That's fair, but I know you, Emma. I saw what you did today in the diner. The way you helped that elderly man without hesitation, without expecting anything in return." He leaned forward slightly, resting his arms on the edge of the open window. "That kind of kindness is rare." Emma's eyes widened slightly. "You saw that?" "I did." His expression softened, and it made me realize something. People like you deserve more than just scraping by, working double shifts, and giving away your hard-earned money without a second thought. Emma was caught off guard. No one had ever acknowledged her like this before. People always thanked her for her service, but they never really saw her. They never noticed how hard she worked or how much she sacrificed. And now, this stranger, this well-dressed man in a car worth more than her entire apartment building, was telling her that she deserved more. She let out a nervous laugh. "That's really nice of you to say, but I don't see what that has to do with me taking a ride with you." James sighed, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "Let me be upfront, then. I want to make you an offer. One that could change your life." Emma tilted her head. "What kind of offer?" "One that I'd rather explain in detail somewhere quieter than the middle of the street," he replied with a knowing smile. Emma studied him for a moment, trying to read between the lines. There was something about him, something about the way he spoke, the way he carried himself, that told her he wasn't just some rich man with a passing interest. He was serious, and more than that, he was sincere. Still, her rational side screamed caution. "Why would someone like you want to help someone like me?" James met her gaze without hesitation. "Because kindness should be rewarded. And because I believe in giving opportunities to those who deserve them." Emma bit her lip, her mind warring between curiosity and caution. Every part of her told her this was insane, that getting into a car with a stranger, no matter how polished and respectable he seemed, was not something a smart person would do. But deep down, something told her this was different. With a deep breath, she took a step forward. "Okay," she said, "I'll listen." James's smile widened, but he didn't gloat. He simply opened the door for her. And as Emma slid into the car, she had no idea that she was about to take the first step toward a future she never imagined possible. Emma sat stiffly in the plush leather seat of the luxury car as it glided through the city streets. The quiet hum of the engine and the scent of fine leather made her hyper-aware of just how out of place she felt. She fidgeted with the strap of her bag, sneaking glances at James Lockwood, the billionaire who had appeared in her life so suddenly. He seemed relaxed, his focus on the road ahead, but there was an air of quiet confidence about him, like a man who always knew exactly what he was doing. The car pulled up to a towering glass building, the kind Emma had only seen in movies. The doorman, dressed in an impeccable suit, opened her door without hesitation. Emma stepped out hesitantly, glancing up at the gleaming skyscraper. "Come inside," James said smoothly, leading the way. Emma hesitated for only a second before following. The moment she stepped into the lobby, she felt even more out of place. The marble floors gleamed under the soft glow of chandeliers, and the hushed voices of sharply dressed businesspeople echoed around her. Every detail screamed wealth, power, and a world she had never belonged to. James led her to a private elevator, and they ascended in silence. Emma's heart pounded. What was she doing here? What kind of offer could this man possibly have for her? The doors slid open to a breathtaking office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. The furniture was sleek, modern, and intimidatingly expensive. James gestured toward a chair. "Have a seat." Emma did as she was told, her fingers gripping her bag like a lifeline. James took a seat across from her, studying her carefully before sliding a thick folder across the table. "Open it," he said simply. Emma hesitated, then slowly flipped open the folder. Her breath caught in her throat. At the top was a scholarship letter from one of the most prestigious universities in the country. Beneath it, a job offer, one with a salary that made her dizzy just looking at it. And then, at the very bottom, a check. A check with more zeros than she had ever seen in her life. She blinked, certain she was seeing things. I don't understand, she whispered, her voice barely audible. James leaned forward. This is for you, Emma. A full scholarship to study whatever you want. A job at one of my luxury hotels, if you want it. And this check, it's to help you get started, to take the burden off your shoulders so you can focus on building the future you deserve. Emma shook her head in disbelief. But why? You don't even know me. James smiled. I know enough. I know that you work hard. I know that you put others before yourself, even when you have little to give. I know that kindness like yours is rare, and I believe in rewarding it. Tears stung her eyes, but she fought them back. This is too much. I can't accept this. James's expression didn't change. Why not? Because I didn't earn it, she said. Voice cracking. I didn't do anything special. He shook his head. That's where you're wrong. Most people only help when there's something in it for them. You didn't hesitate to help a stranger, knowing it would cost you. That kind of heart, that kind of selflessness, is more valuable than anything money can buy. Emma swallowed hard, her fingers trembling as they brushed against the edge of the check. This felt like a dream, like one of those stories you read about but never actually believed could happen in real life. James leaned back in his chair, giving her space to process. I don't want anything from you, Emma. No strings attached. I just want to give you a chance, one that I know you'll make the most of. For the first time in a long time, hope flickered inside Emma's chest. A future beyond waitressing, beyond struggling to make ends meet, was right in front of her. All she had to do was say yes. With a shaky breath, she met James's gaze. Okay, she whispered. A slow smile spread across his face. Good. And just like that, her life changed forever.